welcome back to Changing Seasons with Sophia Dirks. I'm your host, Sophia Dirks, and today we are coming back from a long hiatus. I said I'd be posting bi-weekly, and that did not happen. But we all had life things, and I hope that your life things went pretty well. Mine did, and everything is good now. Got through, first semesters and stuff. Gonna have some exams coming up, but you know what? We're gonna get back to it. It is winter time right now, and you can currently hear a lot of Christmas music playing in the background. So I hope it's not too distracting. But today I want to talk about knowledge. Today I want to talk about knowledge, and I think it's really important that we talk about knowledge. As Socrates said, if I'm the wisest man alive, it is for I know one thing, and that is I know nothing. So Socrates, obviously a really smart guy, but I think that this quote is really important because it shows how we really are just like tiny little insignificant human beings, and that perfectly segues into how I am the main topic of this episode. Actually, not how I am great. I hope you are good. But the main topic of this episode is going to be about why we seek knowledge and how it impacts our reality and the parts of our world that really shape who we are. So I actually came across a really interesting article from I think it was medium.com, and it was talking about why we as humans seek knowledge, and it basically categorized people into 3 different groups, and it is the know-it-all, the knowledge skimmers, and lifelong learners. And I think it'll be really interesting if we just dive into each of those. Okay, so according to the article, the know-it-all is essentially somebody who just learns and seeks knowledge and does X, Y, and Z, reads articles, whatever, just so that they can be braggadocious and show off to people and be like, oh my god, I'm the smartest person in the room. It's very deep in their ego, and most likely this part is not from the article, this part is from my own thinking, but this part of the article talks about how they want to desire validation, and I think that probably comes from childhood issues, and everything is based off of what happened in our childhood, and that's what makes us the people we are today. Every teeny tiny little thing are just small building blocks, pieces of straw in a haystack that build us into the people that we are, and the tiniest things are trauma, if you want to put it that way, and really affect each part of our lives. And so definitely the know-it-all is somebody who had some things that they need to work on and heal, but they want to get that validation from the knowledge that they know, and that's their main motivation for seeking knowledge. And then the second kind of person who seeks knowledge, according to the article, this is just a theory, but the knowledge skimmers, and they want to share knowledge, but they don't fully understand the knowledge before they start wanting to share it with people. They're generous and kind and much more humble than the know-it-all, but their intentions for knowledge still don't come from the right place, if you want to put it that way. And they read knowledge, but they don't fully absorb it, and I think it's very important that we take knowledge for something that is for us first, and the article also mentions that as well, funny enough. And I think me and the article definitely agree there. And then lastly is the lifelong learner, and this is the most positive of the 3. And lifelong learners are the kinds of people that we think of when we think of scholars and scientists, and they absorb the information and they want to know just for the sake of knowing. And knowing is definitely a very innately human pursuit, just because so much around us is unknown. I mean, from the time that we're born to the time that we die, we're always seeking more in knowledge, and I think it can be a very destitute pursuit if we don't have the right intentions behind it. And I think that's why this theory of the 3 intentions is very interesting to think about. But yeah, it's knowledge, and knowledge seeking is definitely a very innately human pursuit. From the time that we're born to our last breaths that we take, we're always trying to find out more. We're always trying to communicate ideas and thoughts and art, and I think that's very interesting. So yeah, to recap, the 3 kinds of knowledge seekers are the know-it-all, the knowledge skimmers, and the lifelong learners. And the know-it-alls are the people who use it and use knowledge in order to gain more status and validation. The knowledge skimmers are people who don't fully understand the knowledge and seek the knowledge for the right reason, but they're a little more humble than the know-it-all. And then the lifelong learner is the person who seeks knowledge for the knowledge and for knowing more. Now, I think that in all of these, it's based off of ego. So all 3 of the kinds of knowledge seekers are based off of ego. So for example, the know-it-all, their pursuit of knowledge is based off of their own ego and how much they want to feed it, and they want to get that validation from other people, and they just want to be seen and heard. And I think, maybe their parents should have given them a little more attention as a kid. And if that's you, then recognize that and be like, wow, that's me. Like, wow, that's something I need to work on. Maybe go to therapy, maybe talk to somebody, journal. All the things that people say that you should do that. And I think it's very important to know what kind of knowledge seeker you are, because our egos, because of this, because of the way we seek knowledge, can completely warp our perception of our realities and the world. If you think about it, if our ego, knowledge is the thing that shapes our world and our worldview. So if you didn't know that the sky was blue and you were colorblind, then it completely changes your perception of the world versus somebody who knows the sky is blue. So the knowledge that you have and the knowledge that you seek is what creates your world. So that means that if the knowledge that we seek is based off of our egos, then our egos shape our perception of the world. And that can be very dangerous if we don't regulate it in the right ways. So your ego can completely destroy your sense of humbleness, and the reason humbleness is important is not because of, in say, a misogynistic way, that, oh, you should be humble, you shouldn't celebrate your accomplishments, you should just play it nonchalant. Nonchalant 6'4" dead, like nonchalant. Not because of that, but because humbleness and compassion is what is killed by the ego. So the ego kills the humbleness. The ego kills the compassion. And if you have no humbleness or compassion and your heart is not open, then you are completely closed to understanding the world and understanding more and getting a more expansive worldview. And it also stops you from understanding other people. So if you think you know everything, for example, because you seek so much knowledge because of your ego, so if you have a big ego and therefore you seek a lot of knowledge, just like the know-it-all, then you're a lot less open to other people's ideas and other people's knowledge from their experiences. So if you cannot gain personal knowledge between people, and you cannot have the compassion to have an open heart and open mind and have an open conversation with somebody, that leads to your relationships breaking down and just people not wanting to be friends with you. Because put yourself in their shoes. Would you really want to be friends with somebody who doesn't listen to you, doesn't understand you because they think they know everything, and then chooses not to, at least attempt to understand how you see the world? And I feel like deep inside we all want somebody who's going to try and understand us and how we see the world. So I think that's really important, and therefore the way that you have to seek knowledge has to be without the ego, and it has to be with an open mind in order to, get the most benefit out of knowledge and just in general live a good life and live good through the changing seasons, if you want to put it that way. Just a little subtle plug of the podcast title. But it also impacts your fulfillment. So if you think about it, if your heart is closed because your ego is in your seek for knowledge, you cannot be filled. You cannot fill a jar that is closed. You cannot fill a bottle that is closed. If it has nothing in it, or if it already has a brown, bad liquid in it, full of misbeliefs and just closed off knowledge, then you cannot fill it with more knowledge. You're just set, it's closed, and you cannot fill it with fulfillment. Does that make sense? So therefore, having a closed off mindset and letting your ego get into the pursuit of your knowledge in the world will ultimately impact your overall fulfillment in your life. Because if you are closed, you cannot be filled. Just like how people say, fill your own cup. You can't. Other people can fill your cup too. Other people filling your cup, giving you energy, you can't receive that energy if your cup has a lid on it, right? And then also, when you seek knowledge in a way that only supports your closed-minded beliefs and your stagnant mindset, you are restricting these new horizons, all these new possibilities to make a better life for yourself and gain new understanding, new relationships, new goals, new ideas, new philosophy is gone, because you've involved your ego in your seek for knowledge and understanding, and your ego can be your worst enemy. Now, there are times where your ego can be helpful when it's a self-preservation technique, and sometimes you need that self-preservation, maybe for a fake it till you make your confidence. Maybe you're up on stage, maybe you need your ego for things, and it's naturally in us. If it wasn't helpful, God would not have put it in us. It definitely comes into use sometimes, but honestly, if you're just seeking knowledge because of your ego, you're never going to receive the amount of knowledge that can really actually broaden your worldview and improve your quality of life overall. And these ideas that other people have are just as important as any knowledge that we can read online or through a book or gain through our own experience. Now, if you are, say, a knowledge or a lifelong learner, like the article talks about, you are able to receive the information from people and their knowledge and their experiences, and it just creates this beautiful mix of shared knowledge that everybody can access, and it just creates this library of memories and stories and just anything furthering the quality of life for everybody involved. There's nothing horrible. I'm not going to say bad, because bad things can come out of knowledge. People's misbeliefs. For example, some older people, the older generations, no offense to the boomers, I love my grandmother and my other grandparents, but some of their knowledge is skewed, some of their scientific, political, religious, not always religious, I'm religious, but sometimes religious and societal beliefs can be harmful to us as people, and obviously that's a downside, but for the most part, a lot more pros come from having an open mind and an open heart and being the kind of learner that seeks knowledge for the benefits of just knowing knowledge, seeks knowledge for the knowledge. Then it's just overall there's a lot more pros to being that kind of learner versus being a know-it-all. So overall, I think that it's very important that we try and be lifelong learners versus know-it-alls. And now, no matter what kind of learner you are, learning means you're either experiencing or consuming, and those two are very parallel and very similar. Experiencing is definitely more like first person and hands-on, and consumption is almost what you hear the word a lot these days when you're thinking about social media and videos and just content in general, just like this podcast you're listening to right now, you're consuming it. If you only consume something, no matter what kind of learner you are, and nothing is coming from that consumption, then that is also unproductive. So you have to think about, if you eat food, think of knowledge as food. If you eat food and then go have a very work-heavy day and do a lot of physical activity, like play a soccer game or play some kind of sport, go to the workout, go do a workout, go to the gym, do a lot of even mental work, like having like a big study day and then going to the gym or something, then it would make sense that you're eating all that food. That food is being put to use, you're using it as fuel, you're using it as energy. That input is producing an output. But if you eat all that food, if you have like a big Thanksgiving dinner or something, and maybe not Thanksgiving because it's a holiday, you are getting an output from that. You're getting the food and the love that you get from spending time with family and enjoying culture. But if you just eat a ton and you just have a big meal for no reason and then you go sit on the couch or something, or you just lay in bed, then it's all input, no output. Nothing useful is coming from the consumption. So to break down the analogy and bring out the representatives of it, if you consume all of this knowledge, and there's nothing wrong with consuming knowledge, books, movies, TV shows, podcasts, music, but there's no creative output, then obviously you can consume just to consume and enjoy. There's nothing wrong with that. I listen to a lot of music just for the joy of it, and that's my output. But if you're just consuming all this knowledge, saying you're reading like a million articles a week, but you're not trying to experience this knowledge and put it to use, then it's also just as unproductive as having a closed mindset and being a know-it-all kind of learner. So consumption without creation is pointless. It's unproductive, and we need to, as a culture and a society, balance out our consumption to creation output, because I think it's a big culminating issue in our time right now, and it's very important that we raise our children to be creators as well, because that just creates a bigger gap between the people who don't have a lot and the people who have a lot, because of the way that we think and that we are taught to think and learn and do. In fact, social media wasn't designed to just be constant consumption. Social media was designed for people to consume and then create. Eat food and then run it off. Burn the calories. Use the energy. And so social media is not all bad. It's the way that we're using it as a culture right now. And this is a bit of a side tangent compared to, the way we use knowledge and, how it affects us. But it's very important that we, consume and create properly, and don't use saying, oh, I'm scrolling, oh, I'm consuming, so later I can create, as a excuse to just scroll. Don't tell your mom that I told you can scroll for hours on end. And hey, it happens to the best of us. We all make mistakes, but the point is that we try and learn and grow from these mistakes. And I think it's very important overall that we just work to change our mindsets and continue to work to become better people individually, and that all ends up to us, having a better society and having a society that works and grows and learns and ultimately seeks consumption and knowledge and art and anything that can help us gain knowledge and wisdom for the right reasons, and obviously as a lifelong learner. And it's also important that we use this knowledge to not be just unproductive and lazy, but we put this knowledge to use by creating things, creating podcasts, creating art, creating books, creating love, helping people, improving other people's lives. You don't have to become a life coach or a guru, but even just giving a stranger on the street advice, if you strike up a conversation, or helping out a friend, is a creation instead of just a consumption. So thank you for joining me for this episode of Changing Seasons. I'm a little out of breath. I had a big thick hot chocolate, like a Italian hot chocolate, and it was really good, and now my stomach's kind of full, so I should probably run it off and make my consumption into creation. But thank you for joining me on this episode of Changing Seasons. And it is winter and we are in the winter season, so expect an episode maybe next Monday. I'll put out an episode by next Monday. So thank you for joining me. I'm your host, Sophia Dirks. That was a little short chat, and I'm back for good, I promise this time. And I love you guys. Thank you for joining me. I love you. Mwah.